Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon from our side in Vienna. My colleague Paul Dunschirn and I will present on behalf of the Maripoldata team the decoupled payment system. And so we we want to start by talking a bit about the background of the system and the historical positions, how the BBNJ negotiations developed. And how the system was thought of, and then give an overview about what it actually is, the decoupled payment system. And you see on the right, we symbolize this by the broken chain. So the idea is to break the chain between having to track and trace the use of MGRs from the payment of monetary benefits. And then my colleague Paul will talk a bit about the implications, so what this system would mean for the key articles of the draft text, how they could be, how they could look like if the system was chosen, was implemented. And then we will also in the end give a special reference to DSI aids, how this idea, the decoupled payment system, relates to DSI, and also how it maybe considers the recent CBD decision. So let us start. Okay, so the BBNJ negotiations for a long time struggled with the key disagreement, or this is what we observed, that there was a key disagreement between the components of the monetary and the non-monetary benefit sharing system. So there's this long discussion about this. Tied to this, it was always the question whether there should be a transparency-based or monitoring-based implementation or traceability system. So this proposal of the decoupled payment aims to combine two key positions. On the one hand, it aims to implement a traceability system that is not too burdensome on researchers and states and also other users of any sorts of marine genetic resources. And on the other hand, very important that the system should guarantee that monetary benefits are shared. It's to a large extent inspired by some of the things that Amber already presented, the DSI and Scientific Network's proposal on benefit sharing in the CBD. So also the graph that she presented is somehow reflected in some of these ideas that you will see here. So let us now discuss a bit the overall idea, the overall logic is that first, collection of MGRs will be very similar, I think, to all the other systems as well. We've foreseen that there will be notifications for pre and post cruise reports. And then there will be an uploading of the data to an open access database. And importantly, in the decoupled payment system, at this point, the obligation for researchers stops. So there will be no further track and trace of further research stages and also access to DSI and all that. Then separately, there will be fixed monetary benefit sharing in the form of a decoupled fee that can be to a special fund established in Article 52 that can be already purposed for conservation and capacity building. Importantly here, this obligation is only for the state parties because the idea is that states may be incentivized to trace the use of MGRs in their jurisdiction, and may be incentivized to also implement a certain fee on users or whatever they want to, but to reclaim this fee that they have to pay. But this will require a level of detail in the legislation that an international treaty can hardly give to implement this in states around the world. Then there are different options, and this is also, I think, one of the advantages maybe of the system, that it could work with different levels of monitoring or review. So on the first option or sub-option is maybe that there is no monitoring or review at all, and this means that this fee is completely detached, decoupled from what the use of MGRs and what is actually being done. Is option A here. Option B is that the fee is based on an end product registration. So this could work closely with the proposal that we just heard from our colleague Julia and Barbara from Brazil. where you would Article 11 by what is being registered as end products that use MGRs. So these determine the fee and also the distribution of how this fee is paid from which state parties. And the third, or option C, would be that there is a regular review by the scientific and technical body or the access and benefit sharing mechanism in some sort of a study where these bodies try to estimate the use or the commercialization of MGRs per state, and then this informs the amount and the distribution of the fee under Article 11. I'll now hand over to my colleague Paula, who will talk you through the articles.
Thank you, Arne. Okay. So Arne just gave you the overview of how this decoupled payment system would look like. I will give you some more details. So as mentioned, Article 10 on the same. So we would have pre and post cruise reports and notifications on upload and location of data and materials. Then in Article 11 on benefit sharing, this would determine the regular fee for states to be paid to the multilateral purpose fund. And so this fund would channel money into capacity building projects, but also projects for environmental sustainability. And of course, the key here is how do you assess the fee to be paid to this fund? And so first of all, we need to determine the overall amount that should go to this fund, which could be based on a study or an estimation of economic value derived from MGRs from areas beyond national jurisdiction. The second question will be about the distribution amongst states. And this could be leveled according to existing scales, such as the UN assessment scale. Importantly, the idea is that state parties may recover benefits from commercialization of MGRs within their own national system. So states themselves can implement national jurisdiction to trace and recover these benefits, but there would not be an obligation for that. And finally, when it comes to the monitoring and review mechanism, which would be part of Article 13, there are these three different options. So the first one would be that there is no tracing of commercial uses, and you just sort of maintain what is agreed to start off with. Second option, option B, would be to have this end product registration system to adjust the fee going forward, which can also be compatible with the ideas of the end user proposal that was just discussed previously. And finally, there could be a regular review in form of an independent study commissioned by the scientific and technical body or the access and benefit sharing mechanism to adjust the fees. And of course, this could also be combined with the end product registration system. And finally, this regular review could also consider some issues related to intellectual property, such as potential compulsory licensing to products from MGRs from BBNJ. And just to close off, just some words on DSI and the relation to CBD. This proposal is largely inspired by the discussions that were taking place in the CBD, as Amber already presented. So this system would be in line with some of the decisions that were made at the CBD. So, for instance, the idea of having a special purpose fund for monetary benefit sharing is largely the same. There is also the recognition that monetary benefits from DSI shall be shared, which would also be in line. And also, it would be in line with the recognition that monitoring access and use of DSI is not practical, as this would not be required in the system. Finally, also, The idea to target states rather than individual users avoids introducing access restrictions to databases. So in this sense, scientists would also be happy with this system. Just to summarize, so this decoupled payment system proposes an optional traceability system while including monetary benefit sharing. So it tries to establish a compromise between these positions. It establishes a regular fee for states to be paid to the multilateral purposed fund. Key questions are how to assess the level of fees to be paid, where there are these three options that are possible. And finally, the system would largely be compatible with CBD decisions. Yeah, that's it. Happy to discuss further.